Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bullets again with the second part of the GvG Goblins versus Gnomes card preview. This time I'll be going over the class cards. I said in the last video I wanted to go over them, so here we go. I've kind of done some research and kind of looked at some of the opinions on Reddit of what people have been saying about these cards, and I've kind of come up with my own opinions, and yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just run through all of these as fast as I can, and then there's a lot of, because these are neutral cards, they can be used in every deck. So there's going to be some cards that are going to spawn archetypes and all that stuff, and I kind of went over briefly some of the cards that I felt would have high impact. So yeah, let's go ahead and just start off. So Target Dummy, I don't think that's a very good card. It's like a Wisp, but a little bit better, I think. I don't know, that card's pretty trash. Clockwork Gnome is a good card. I think it's actually pretty good for the mech archetype. An aggro mech deck seems like it would be... I'd be pretty good with a card like that. I'm going to go over these kind of quickly, it's just so that I can get through all of them. There's a lot, so yeah. Cogmaster is actually an interesting card. I think it's actually good design space. This is kind of how, what's it called? Undertaker should have been designed. This is a completely balanced card. It's a 1-drop that can become a 3/2. That's about as balanced as it gets in terms of 1-drops. With a with a potential upside, it's completely balanced. It's not like Undertaker that can snowball a game completely. And yeah, so I really like Cogmaster a lot. I think it's actually a pretty well thought up card. Mech Warper, I kind of talked about it in the last video. It's going to enable mech decks to be really strong. I think it's going to make playing a Clockwork Gnome for 0 is pretty strong, and then all the class mech specific cards are going to cost 1 less as well, of course. So he's going to enable a lot of strategies that are going to be pretty powerful. Overall, I think this card is going to be a pretty good pickup for anyone that wants to play a mech-based deck. Micro Machine. Looking at this card, I don't really think it's that good. It's a 2-mana 3/2 that's delayed on being a 3/2. Actually, well, because you play it, you pass the turn, and then it becomes a 2/2. And then on your turn it's a 3/2, and then it can potentially be more than that. It's okay. It's going to be a good arena card, definitely a good arena card. I just have a little. All right, it's going to be a very good arena card. Just it's technically a 3-mana 2-mana 3/2 rather, but on your opponent's turn it's a 2/2. That's the only drawback to it, and it can get out of control. It comes back on the following turn as a 5/2 for 2. If you can attack with it and then it survives, and then you get it, and then on, let's say, turn 4, let's say you drop it on 2, then you attack with it on 3 and attack with it on 4. This card can do a lot of damage by itself. It's not going to snowball most of the time because it only has 2 health, but I think it's not too bad. Puddle Stomper will be a good arena card, and might be a good playable constructed card, but I don't know. It's just a vanilla Murloc. We'll see if Murlocs will get if this is what Murlocs need. I don't think it is. And Recombobulator. Interesting. The thing is with Recombobulator is that it can be really good, okay? But if you're playing a really high quality card, right? Let's say you're playing a Chillwind Yeti. What is a better 4-drop than a Chillwind Yeti? You know what I mean? If you're playing already the best cards that you possibly can in that slot, in that mana slot, if you're playing the best 2-mana minions, the best 3-mana minions, so on and so forth, Recombobulator is not going to get you that much value because it's only going to, the potential upside is a lot lower than the downside. So it'll be a decent arena card, I think, if it's an epic, so it's not going to be seen that much. The only case I think that could be made for the card being constructed playable is if you want to play a minion-heavy deck and play something like Zoo that wants to turn their 3 drops into something better. I don't know. I just don't really see too much support with that. So here we go. Stone Splinter Trog. This is the first card that is really anti-miracle, anti-spare parts. Definitely card. I like the design behind this card. It's pretty solid. It might be constructed playable. I'm not too sure. We'll see about that one. Gilblin Stalker. Gilblin Stalker. That's weird. Gilblin Stalker. Pretty bad. Just compared to the Trog, right? It's and compared to a comparable 3-drop, Shade of Naxxramas doesn't really do anything comparatively good. It's good in Arena, maybe, but overall not too impressed with that one. Annoyatron, 2-mana. It's a Goldshire footman with Divine Shield. Pretty annoying, but beyond that, I don't really think it's too amazing of a card. I think there's definitely better for 2-mana, but it's not bad. I think it's a card like that is a step in the right direction in terms of in terms of card design. What anti-aggro tech will be needed. I think it's hard to make that card any better than it is without it outclassing something like Flesh Eating Ghoul. That was called? Yeah, Flesh Eating Ghoul. It's really hard to make that any better because it'll just make other cards worse. So it's okay. It might see some play, it might not. Like if it was a 2/2, it would just make Frostwolf Grunt look silly, which you don't ever want to do. So I like where they're going with this. It's not. I mean, it might see some fringe constructed play, but I don't think any more than that. Ship's Cannon. This card is actually pretty solid. It's a demolisher on pirate play. So with the support for pirates, I believe that are in Rogue currently, like now that they've added Rogue cards that are pirates, this might spawn a pirate deck. I think pirates have just been missing a there's not a niche that it can fill currently, and this will create, or this will help it fill a certain niche. We have so much more to go. Goodness. Where were we? Explosive Sheep. I'm going to try to hurry up a little bit. Deals damage to all minions. Pretty solid card. I think it'll see play in Warrior. And maybe somewhere else. I think Warrior would be a good fit for that. Tinkertown Technician. This card is pretty strong because this is a really powerful 3-drop in a mech deck. A 4/4 doesn't really seem that powerful, but the fact that you can get a 4/4 plus a spare part is pretty good. Plus, at the very worst, it's a 3-mana 3/3, which it passes the vanilla test, which is all that it really needs to do. Ogre Brute, I talked about in the previous video about how much I hate this mechanic and how I think it's just bad. This card is not good enough. If it was a 5/5, perhaps it would be good, or a 5/4. I think it would be pretty strong, but I don't think it's very powerful. The 3-mana 4/4 that has 50% chance to not do what you want it to do. Goblin Sapper is a really good anti-handlock card. It's it could be a 3-mana 6/4, which is crazy. Like that's crazy. So, why would you play Ogre Brute over Goblin Sapper? There's already some disparity between those cards. And this is a very good, not just anti-handlock tech, but it's also a good anti-control priest. However, if it gets silenced or something like that, if a priest has a Cabal Shadow Priest, they can steal that card. They can also control if they want to pain or death it. It's overall, I think this card is pretty solid. Gnomish Experimenter. I think it'll be good in certain decks, but it's not. It's definitely not a card for every deck. It'll be a spell-heavy decks. Freeze Mage will play it, just because it's a good gap between Novice Engineer and Gnomish Inventor. So that's about it. Illuminator might see some play in Mage, a really slow control Paladin deck that wants to use secrets that don't trigger as much, or they can't really think of any secrets that are hard to trigger in Paladin, but I think that's a pretty okay card for the slow control decks. Little Exorcist. That's very good to the current meta. If you see, if you're up against a lot of Undertaker-esque decks, this will be a good inclusion in your deck, just to be able to bridge the gap between 3 and 4. If you can follow this up with a decent-sized threat, it could potentially be pretty good. I talked about Hobgoblin before. It'll enable some interesting small base strategies, but because it doesn't trigger with the Paladin hero power, I don't think it's actually that powerful, but it could potentially be good in the in the right deck, and I think a deck could be constructed with the 1 attack minions being 3/3s. Nomergon Infantry is, um, in all honesty, pretty bad. It's, you know, 2 stats less than a Stormwind champion, not champion. The the Stormwind guy, 2/5 charger for 4. This guy is just worse than him. Like, a 2 attack is pretty crucial. If it was a 2/3, it'd be bad. If it's a 2/4, it's too good. As a 1/4, it's just too weak. If it was a 1/5, then maybe it'd be better, but I don't know. Flying Machine, 3 mana, 1/4 with Wind Fury, that's okay. Spider Tank is good. Enhanso Meccano, talked about that. I think the card has a lot of potential upside that might warrant it being played in some decks. Jeeves talked about that. It's an insane aggro enabler. It'll be a pretty important card to play in a lot of aggro-based strategies. Piloted Shredder, I think, is a pretty powerful card. Has the potential to be insane. 4 mana, 4/3. It doesn't pass the vanilla test on entry, but then if you pull a really strong 2-drop with it on Death Rattle, it pays for itself. Burly Rockjaw Trog. That's really tough to say. Burly Rockjaw Trog. BRT. BRT is a pretty strong card. It's got a lot of like health, which is very crucial. It's like a Chill Wind Yeti. -1 attack, of course, but it has the potential to grow out of control. It's very similar to the Stone Splinter Trog, and I guess the Trogs are going to be gaining attack based on opponent's spells, which is actually really nice. I think this card will fit nicely into the metagame if it shifts to spell heavy or spare card heavy. Arcane Nullifier X21. I don't actually think it's that good of a card. I don't think Taunt is really worth the loss in attack. Like, if it was a just if it was like a 3/5 or a 4/5, if it was a 3/5 for 4 that had the Spectral Knight text, I think it'd be powerful. Where it currently stands, I don't really think it's that good. It's not better than Tezdingo, so I think just it's like a weaker Tezdingo here. Kazan Mystic will be insanely powerful if Mad Scientist's secret-based strategies come back. You can kill your opponent's Mad Scientist, then play a Mystic and take the secret. A very powerful card. I think it's honestly one of the best cards in the set, and it's well designed as well. I talked about Mechanical Yeti being insanely strong. Mini Mage, I think it's pretty bad. This is just an example of a bad epic. It'll be a nice 100 dust for you whenever you open it. Lost Hellstrider, or Tallstrider, will be a pretty important card to enable Druid of the Fang in Druid. It's a 4-drop beast that's kind of fat, so that'll help whenever you drop. If you want to play that type of strategy, you want to have some beast synergy, you can play a Tallstrider followed up by a Fang, and you have a 5/4 and a 7/7 on 5, which is pretty powerful. Bomb Lobber. Deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. That's pretty powerful. I think it's appropriately costed, and it's not too fat. It's just a 3/3. The fact that it's random keeps it relatively balanced. It's like a Shadow Bolt on a dude that you can't control. So Shadow Bolt is, what is it? Is it 3 mana for? I gotta look this up now. Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt is 3 mana. Okay, so you're getting a 3 mana effect and 3 mana worth of stats for 5. So you essentially you're saving 1 mana worth of stats, or yeah, I guess worth of stats, but that 1 mana spent on it being random, which I think is totally fine. Salty Dog is an interesting card. They're trying to push pirates to be powerful, and Salty Dog has the potential to be insanely strong if you have a South Sea Captain already out. It can make this card very, very, very huge, but the fact that it starts off in Big Game Hunter range definitely gives it a drawback. Antique Healbot, I talked about this before. It's a very strong card. I think it's going to see play in a lot of decks that need the extra help. It might see play in a heal-heavy Paladin deck. It might see play in a heal-heavy Druid deck. We'll have to see as time goes on. Fel Reaver talked about this one. It's an insanely strong card. I think it might see play in some kind of handlock variant. Maybe not handlock, though. Kind of depends, because if you can go Reaver plus Silence, it's another giant. Reaver with Zoo will obviously be insane. because Zoo usually doesn't ever get to the fatigue mark. So having a card that's just very powerful by itself is obviously very good. Murmuron's Head. It's kind of hard to see this card being crazy. It could be a curved topper in the mech-based deck, because if you get Voltron, you just win. Like, Voltron is crazy. That's the token down here. The 4/8 charge of Mega Wind Fury, so it's 16 damage to the face on turn 5 or turn 6, depending if you have a coin or not. It could be good. I might try, if I open one of these, I might try it in a deck or two and then disenchant it. Junk Bot, whenever friendly minion dies, mech dies, gain +2/+2. Not bad. It's a solid card. Might also be a curved topper in those mech decks. We'll see. Hemet Nesting Away, it's the real, big game hunter. the beast hunter. Interesting. I think it's a little weak because, well, it kills Godzilla right away, which is nice. But there's not really too many other beasts that I think warrant a 6/3 5-mana legendary slot in your deck. So, I don't know. Matter Bomber is a good arena card. That's about all I have to say about that one. Blingatron is interesting. Could be very, very powerful. Because if you get like a Gorehowl and they get like a Light's Justice, you just win the game. However, if they get the Gorehowl and you get the Light's Justice, you kind of just lose the game. It's too high risk of a card. And if you're playing, well, it could also be used as an anti-weapon tech as well. Because if they have a weapon, right, and you play Blingatron, it gets rid of their weapon. So it might be good counter-warrior tech if warriors are going to be playing lots of weapons. Could be. To get rid of their strong weapon and give them a weaker one, or potentially a weaker one, potentially a stronger one, potentially the same one. We'll see. Mogre the Ogre, I don't like this mechanic at all. It's just it's a flipped Boulder Fist Ogre with that negative drawback. And it does stack. So the effect stacks with other Ogre. So if the Ogre if you play a card that already has a 50% chance to miss, it'll have to roll twice. So it doesn't have a 100% chance. It'll roll 50%, and then if it attacks, if it loses or whatever, attacks the wrong one, then it goes through both checks. It goes through the check twice. So essentially, it only goes through it once. But who's really counting? Toshli is value, a lot of value actually. I didn't really realize how much of a value card he is. The thing is about Toshli is he's got a lot of health, which will help him a lot in being a card that I think people will at least try to make work. Might see some fringe play in like a warrior deck, but it's, by all accounts, I think it's weaker than Cairn. Unless the spare part cards you get are just ridiculous, in most cases it's going to be a little bit weaker than Cairn, I think. Paladin Sky Golem, it's very similar to the Shredder, the one down here, Paladin Shredder. Very similar to that. I like it. I think it could be very powerful. It has a lot of upside, and you lose 1 mana worth of stats to play it, and I still think it's pretty good. It'll see some play for sure. I think so, at least. Gazlowe, whenever you cast a 1 mana spell, add a random mech to your hand. Very hard to see this card seeing a lot of play. I just don't know where all these 1 mana spells are going to come from. Like, what deck is going to have that much support for a 6-drop that you only have one of in your deck? Well, what am I thinking? I totally forgot about this. There's these things called spare parts. See, I was thinking, I'm like, where do these 1 mana spells come from? Actually could be a legitimate threat if you have a lot of spare part generators and then you play Gazlowe. Could get a lot of mechs, could spiral it out of control. We'll see, though. Dr. Boom summon 2 1/1 Boom Bots, and the Boom Bots, they have Death Rattle, Blow Up, or something. Deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy. Where are we? We are here. I think he's a good card. He's good, but I just can't see too much about him that just sticks out to me. Like these legendaries are kind of just having this, like, they're good value cards, but I just don't see them being like game changers like Cairn is or Sylvanas. They just don't have that look on the surface that you can obviously see with the other ones. Now the next one is really insane though. Trogzor, the Earthinator. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, summon a Burly Rock BRT. So BRT is this one. So your opponent casts a spell, you get a 3/5. And you have a 6/6 body for 7. Okay, that's perfectly fine with me. It's just anti-miracle, anti-spirit card effects. Full Reaper 4000 also damages the minions next to whomever he attacks. It's an 8 mana card that doesn't really impact the board right away. Compare him to Trogzor. Trogzor, if they use a spell to kill Trogzor, you at least get a BRT. With Foe Reaper, if they kill Foe Reaper, it's dead. Like, that's it. So, I like Trogzor a lot more than Foe. I don't think Foe Reaper is very good at all. Force Tank Max, 8 mana, 7/7 Divine Shielder mech. It's okay. Great arena card. Constructed playable, probably not. There's a lot of reasons why it's not. Too much mana for the effect it has. Sneasel the Shredder. This is actually a good card. Summon a random legendary minion. Unfortunately, you don't get the battle cry of whatever legendary you spawn. So it'll be bad for if you get like a card like Dr. Boom or something like that. Still think it's good, but ultimately I think it'll be a little bit undervalued because of the potential downside that you get from it. However, you spawn something like Ysera on the Death Rattle, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like with other cards, you gotta value okay, so he's one of those cards that will get better as the game gets as the game gets older. As more sets come out, in general, that's how kind of things work. There's going to be more good cards, and there's going to be more bad cards. So actually, it's kind of hard to see this trend over time. But the bad cards eventually get better. So, for instance, right, Mogre the Ogre, right? I say it's a bad card. Compare that to a bad legend, or it's a bad legendary. Compare that to a bad legendary of the expert set, right? Like, let's say it's much better than Lord Walker Cho, though. I'll give it that. It's definitely a good defensive card, too. Better than Lord Walker Cho, right? So as time goes on, the general quality of bad cards are going to rise as well. So bad legendaries are going to be better than they once were. That means that Sneed's Ultrader will actually get more value as time goes on. He may not be a good card. Let me scroll up. Sorry, he may not be a good card right now, but maybe in a year from now, when another expansion or two comes out, he might be solid. At this point, I'm not too sure he's actually that good of a card. We'll have to see, though. We'll have to see. He's an 8 mana 5/7. You also got to consider that, if the legendary you get back isn't very good, he may not even pay for himself. But you get a Ragnaros off of him, you could win the game. It's a really, RNG effect that you have no control over. So, we'll see about that one. I'm not even going to try this one. I'm going to say Thermoplug. Mechgineer. Thermoplug. Whenever an enemy minion dies, summon a Leper Gnome, 9/7 for 9. Okay, in a board-based deck, could be good, but I don't know, I don't really find myself blown away by this card, but he's not exactly bad either. He's a very front-heavy 9-drop, and he has the potential to win the game just out of a few enemy minion kills. The problem is he's 9 mana, takes up all of your turn. He kind of suffers from the same thing that the reasons why Alexstrasza and Jiraxxus and stuff, why they don't see play, even though I would consider them to be much better cards than Thermoplug. Kind of seems hard to justify this guy seeing play in any deck, for that matter. But I'm not too sure. This card could be really good if minion-based decks are the norm because of the fact that Trogs exist as great counter tech. Then maybe Thermoplug will be good, but until that point, I think it's kind of hard to justify playing this card. And then Clockwork Giant is the antithesis of Mountain Giant. Actually, not the antithesis, it's kind of just a reverse effect. If it was the antithesis, it'd be like a 0 cost that costs 1 more for every card in your opponent's hand, and it would be like a 0/0. It's very bad antithesis, it doesn't work. Anyway, so besides the point, I like this card a lot. It's more giants, the better. And it's also an effect that is going to favor handlock strategy. Well, it may not even favor handlock. It'll be good anti-handlock. It could also be good handlock-based tech. You know, the more giants, the better. However, you can't control your opponent's hand unless you want to play like a mill-based deck. You could do a mill-based deck with like Muckclaw and all those other cards that you use to like make your opponent draw. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe like the Dancing Swords. And then you can play Clockwork Giant as an addition to that. But then it's like, if you're playing a lot of minions, you know, Sea Giant might be better. I don't know. This card is either going to... It's going to be very hit or miss with the Clockwork Giant. I don't know. There might be a gimmicky deck. Like, I've seen a couple people try to, like, make a rogue deck based on this one, where they use, like, Banish and stuff like that to try and get Clockwork Giant out for free or for very cheap. But, yeah. So, that has been my rundown of the class neutrals. The neutral cards for the set. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to do some gameplay on my stream. I didn't plug myself last time. If you want to check out my stream, I'll put a link in the channel. I'll be playing tonight, and I'll be probably playing every day until the expansion drops. And even then, after that, I'll be doing like the pre-release events and all that they have for the game. Well, not pre-release. That's a magic term. Launch events they'll be having for the game. There'll be 3 free packs of GvG, and yeah, I'll be opening not many packs. I don't exactly have a lot of gold or money right now, so. But yeah, definitely keep your eye out on that. I'll be playing. I'll be trying to put together some deck ideas and trying to make some things work. So yeah, you guys take it easy. And oh yeah, if you have a question, if you want to question anything like that regarding cards, just drop a comment below if you want to bring my attention to something that maybe I missed, and maybe it's undervaluing a card or overselling a card or something like that. Please let me know. I like to discuss these things in the comments. Yeah, so last video, you know, got some comments, or like 200 plus views. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions regarding cards, you want to discuss anything with me, please leave a comment. I'll definitely try to respond, and I can have a discussion with you guys. But yeah, like I said, check out my stream in the description, and yeah, I'll see you.